an accomplished scholar right there.
Guys. That was very elegant and well. Thank you guys so much. Let me begin by expressing just how grateful and very proud I am to be here in front of you all. And I'd also like to extend congratulations to the committee, the Committee of Scholars who put this program together. All right, your efforts this whole weekend are greatly appreciated, and I'd like to thank you guys for that. This scholarship means a great deal to me personally. Aside from the obvious monetary appeal, this organization has offered me what no amount of money ever could. And if I had to limit myself to a single attribute MLKSA has given me, it would be consciousness. If I'm sitting in my car at a traffic light and I find myself passing judgment on a panhandler walking nearby, I would have forgotten all about events such as Home for the Homeless. If I were to say that inner city children are rotten, wild, and have no hope for an education, then I would have forgotten all about volunteer programs such as Scholar Buddies. As an MLK scholar, I have a responsibility to see my community and the people around me from a different perspective. If you are, or if you were, someone who was counting the days until graduation so that you were through with event planning or community service, and if you were that person just beaming at the thought that life after MLK would be so great because it would be life after MLKSA, you would have missed the bigger picture. And your 4 years with this organization would have been for nothing. If the kind of person I'm referring to is ringing a bell and is reminding you of sentiments you have shared, or perhaps you currently share, I would encourage you to be conscious and remember the people whom you serve. I strongly believe that we all serve someone or something, whether we realize it or not. The question we should be asking ourselves is not, do I serve, but rather, who do I serve, and how? I grew up in the church, and something my mom would always tell my brother and I growing up was that it's one thing to sin in the dark, but it's another to sin in the light. She was referring to us growing up in a home where the line between right and wrong was definitively drawn for us. We had to take responsibility for our actions because we knew better. You cannot be too hard on someone who is shackled to a life that has only been exposed to darkness. But we as MLK scholars, we have been exposed to many truths. Truths that force us to stop and take a second look around. As you look around, what do you see? Personally, since I've graduated, I've seen a lot of hunger. I've seen it in the refugees who come to this country through IRC in Elizabeth looking for a better life. I've seen it in my students in Sussex Avenue. If you guys aren't familiar with that area, it's right off of 280. If you're taking, what's that street? Coming down South Orange Avenue. You make that left on that street, and you go towards 280. In that area is Sussex Avenue. That's where my students are from.
It's right around high school.
And many of these students, they come from impoverished homes, and they arrive to school on empty stomachs. I've seen it right outside the front gate of my own church. I tell you that I subconsciously felt this force that was just edging me towards action. It was this force reminding me to be conscious and remember the 4 years that I had with this organization. It was almost as if Reverend Pritchett was like in my ear saying, Joel. He'd always call me Joel. I can't remember once in 4 years he had named it well. That's all right. He'd say, Joel, you need to do something. That force moved me to join a delegation of teachers and staff members, and we established Sussex Avenue School's very first backpack program, which gives every student at least one packaged meal every day and a backpack to carry it home with them. The same force motivated me to start this nonprofit I did with my brother Josue, serving donated food from restaurants in the community to the homeless. And this past Christmas, with the help of family, friends, and there was one scholar who came, a good friend of mine, Michael, who was just here, but he left. These people, they helped in serving food from 7 different restaurants in the community to guests from at least 5 different shelters across the city. And just to wrap up for you guys, there's that question that I would ask myself towards the end of my college career, and especially when I got out. And I'm trying to figure out, what am I going to do now? Maybe some of you are in that position right now. Sometimes your life, you can guide it and push it in a certain direction. You may want it to go a certain way. But sometimes there are factors that shift your paradigm, that shift your direction. And perhaps you'll go towards another path. You just don't know. This life can be very insecure sometimes. But I will ask you this, and this is something you need to ask yourselves while you're here now, and something that I'm pretty sure you're going to ask yourselves when you get in the real world, okay, scholars? The question is very simple. I'm going to frame it for you in very black and white terms. What will you choose to serve in your own life? Will you dedicate your efforts to a life of darkness, or will you dedicate them to a life of light? Will you serve yourself for success and personal gain? Or will your aim be to serve others and do great things? We all have a choice to make. A very simple choice. As I said before, we all serve something. We all serve someone. Whether you know it or not, whether you acknowledge it or not, you definitely serve something and someone, perhaps. But you have the responsibility as a scholar, an MLK scholar, to choose consciously.